I'm Sally Whaling, and I'm overjoyed to be recording a lightning process video. I was glued to these recovery stories when I learned about the LP from a friend. I watched a ton of them. They brought me real hope as I was firmly on a hopeless path. I suffered from a 14-year chronic health issue. Most of the time I was bedbound. And thanks to Amanda and the lightning process, I have my life back. I am back to living a full life. And that started within the first 3 days of the lightning process workshop. I literally cried tears of joy daily. I know it sounds unbelievable, but let me tell you my story. As I mentioned, I fought chronic health issues for 14 years. In 2009, I had a traumatic brain injury from a really serious horseback riding fall. I was forced to shut down my business, a business that I built for 8 years and was wildly passionate about. And really, I had to shut down most of my life. I was still recovering. I was still working on recovering my brain power when I went down with a debilitating long COVID case, and I fought that for the last 3 years. Symptoms are not relevant in lightning process, which I'll explain later. But prior to the LP, I was living and breathing symptoms. I was tracking them daily, many times hourly. And that's why I want to mention them, because I'm sure many of you are in the same place. My diagnosis with long COVID was dysautonomia. Here's a glimpse of some of my symptoms. I had crippling fatigue. At the start of long COVID, the longest I could walk was 3 minutes consecutively. 3 years later, it was 5. So to say I was limited was an understatement. If I took a shower, that would likely be my activity for the day. I had major brain processing issues. I couldn't drive. I didn't drive for 3 years. I many days couldn't read, and interacting people was a real challenge. I could do 5-10 minutes on a good day at a time, and often that would be the only interaction that I could handle for that day. I had heart rate swings that were all over the board. I'd go drop down to the 30s, be rushed to ER to get oxygen because I had breath hunger, and they'd be talking about putting a pacemaker in me, and then it would shoot up to 140 and keep going. So I had no confidence that my heart was working properly. It wasn't. My lungs would have spasms. My digestion literally stopped. I became so bloated, I pretty much stopped eating. And even when I stopped eating, I gained 20 pounds. I ended up in maternity pants for years. It was so uncomfortable. My lungs would have spasms. I had body tingles, extreme temperature swings, circulation issues, and the list goes on, as I'm sure, unfortunately, many of you can relate to. I literally felt like I had an alien in my body and had no control over it. I had no life and no real path to recovery, even with trying a lot of Eastern and Western approaches. I had no real path to recovery until the lightning process. I did the LP in mid-November. As of day 1 of the lightning process workshop, I did more in that day than I had done in 3 years. I walked for 15 minutes. It was extraordinary. I know as you're listening to this right now, this is always the part of the videos that I would be, when I was watching them, that I would pause and say, I mean, this is really hopeful, but how? How is that even possible? It's possible by implementing the LP tools. It is a training program, so you have to do the work. You have to implement those tools. How does it work? Top line is they teach you how to reboot your nervous system, redirect your brain synapses from the incorrect neurological cycle, which is the sympathetic nervous system, as some of you might already know, or as LP refers to it, the physical emergency response. That's when your body is in fight or flight mode. And through the LP tools, you shift it from the incorrect cycle to the correct cycle. The correct cycle is the parasympathetic nervous system. That's rest, digest, repair. And that's how you get unstuck. That is why symptoms are not important. They're just a product of a nervous system issue. From there, you use the LP tools to stay in the correct neurological cycle, to stay in the parasympathetic nervous system. If you're in the parasympathetic nervous system, your body is in rest, digest, repair mode, and it has everything it needs to heal. It knows exactly what to do. You get to the most cellular level of healing in your body. That's possible. It is amazing and wildly empowering. So you are left to control your brain to give your body what it needs to access the parasympathetic nervous system. You hand it off to the parasympathetic nervous system, and then your body knows what to do. So the LP, the tools that enable you to get get you there, tools you might be familiar with at some point of your life journey. They have to do with awareness, visualization, cognitive behavior therapy, and loads of compassion. The thing that is so brilliant about the lightning process and makes it such a game changer is that they link all of these things together. And that is where you can trip the nervous system to get to the one you want to be in, which is the parasympathetic nervous system, and enable your body to heal. All of this starts with believing. You have to believe that your body can heal. You have to believe that you can access healing on the cellular level. And you've got to believe that you can reboot your nervous system. And I'm here to tell you it can happen. I have lived through that experience. And then it takes work. As I said, it's a training program. At the end of each day in the LP workshop, we were asked what we would do that we hadn't done for as long as we've been sick. And that was after the 5-hour Zoom. On day one, I said I'd walk the length of the road I lived on, where I was living at that point in Vermont. That was my 15-minute walk that I'd mentioned. The second day, I drove to the supermarket. I drove 3 miles, and I entered a public space that had music and lights and noise and movement, and I bought a carton of milk. I'll tell you, it was the best milk I've ever had. I did it. On the third day, I zipped down the mountain for a 30-minute drive to surprise my dad and sister, who I knew would be together. And it was the most joyful reunion possible. After that, I drove back the 30 minutes, and the healing spiral, as the lightning process calls it, began. To give you a glimpse of my life now, I'm connecting with family and friends, many of whom I hadn't seen in years. That is so fueling. I am starting my day with an hour walk with the dogs. The dogs are adjusting to it, I think, honestly. They preferred a little rest. They got very comfortable with the rest, but it's awesome. I'm working on rebuilding my body strength. I'm going to regular Pilates and yoga classes. I'm driving for long distances. I've driven 4 hours. That's the longest I've been, and the only reason why that's the longest I've driven, and the only reason why I stopped is because I reached my destination. I've just returned from 5 weeks in Southern California, and almost every afternoon we ended up going for extensive hikes in the Santa Monica Mountains. I'm making plans for more travel. Really, I'm making plans, and any one of you knows who's fighting chronic health woes. Making plans is an impossibility. I am making plans. I'm figuring out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, for the next stage of my career. I'm living. I am part of my life once again. I was lucky enough to work with Amanda. She's extraordinary. Her knowledge is deep. Her ability to adjust and adapt to the needs of each person is really incredible. And her compassion is bottomless. That compassion really is one of the crucial, if not the number one ingredient to success of this program. And she shows you how to find that within yourself. Amanda cares fiercely and always goes the extra step when needed to show somebody the way. And again, she shows you the way because, as I've said, it's a training program. You have to put in the work. And that's the only way that you're going to find your path out and find health and the life you want to live. And have I had wobbles? Absolutely. Wobbles. That's a slight setback, as Amanda calls them. And that's part of the process. But each time I work my way out of a wobble, I'm stronger in my trust with the lightning process. I'm stronger in my LP tools, because again, it's you're learning these tools, and it's just like building a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger you get. And the stronger my belief in my healthy future. All leads to more plans. There were 4 of us in the lightning process workshop. 3 of us were long COVID sufferers, and 1 was chronic fatigue, and she'd been suffering for 3.5 years. Every single one of us is flourishing. We are all living full lives. And actually, just 2 days ago, I met up with one of the women in my group, and we had a 2-hour walk in Central Park. We savored every single minute of it. And we continued to share wins with each other and really draft off each other's wins and recoveries from any wobbling moments. I'm indebted to Amanda and the lightning process. I struggle to find the words. And so for now, I just continue to say thank you. You can heal. It is within you. That's what Amanda says over and over. It is in your body. You just need the belief and then the tools and then ultimately the discipline to continue to implement those tools. I hope you do it. I hope you get your life back, and I hope it's a better life than you ever had before. That has been my experience, and I want that for anybody suffering. Good luck.